In this video, I'd like to discuss how to take a static snare drum sample and with parameter modulation, I give it more life. You can see here I've got a sample that's already been set up. The attack here and the delay are moving according to the parameters that I set up in the parameter modulation. The EQ here is also right about 800 hertz modulating as well. And when we play this, this is what you hear. Now that's not great, but it's a whole lot better than the static sample itself, which we'll take a look at now. So what I'll do is I'll turn on the modulation envelope so that we can see what's going on. And just turn them off for the sake of hearing that without. You can see there's quite a bit of difference. I mean, that's giving you the classic machine gun effect, even though it does have some velocity sensitivity to it. So that's where we want to get to. So I'll show you how we set this up. I'm going to turn that track off, and we'll insert a new track and start from the beginning. So here we'll open up and we'll go get a Rio Sample-O-Matic 5000, and I have that same sample set up as a preset, so I'll just pull in that same sample and we'll go from here. Mute this track. Insert a new envelope, or excuse me, insert a new item. Here you can see the RS5K's already been positioned onto D2 or note number 38. So I'm just going to put in four little beats. Let those guys play. Okay, you can see that's pretty static. First thing I want to take a note of is the volume setting on the Rio Sample-O-Matic itself. By default, it is set to 0 dB. This is not 0. It is 0 dB, but it's not the bottom of the scale. The bottom of the scale is actually infinity, which is where I want it set right now, so that the lowest velocity or zero on the velocity will be 0 volume, and it goes directly up to through the scale from 0 to 127, starting at the bottom. If we leave it here on 0, there will be no change in velocities because there is no difference between the minimum volume and the volume itself. So that'll be the first thing we do. And we can take a look at that back in the item. And we'll make these increase as it goes through, and you'll hear that difference. Okay, that's the first thing we want to do in making our static snare drum sample more dynamic. So we'll work with the attack first, this being the attack point of the envelope. We'll find that in our parameter modulation link from the list, attack. We'll set it for LFO. You can see it's at full strength, so the attack is going all over the place. We'll set this at the minimum. Now it's kind of difficult to really do this with a mouse, to get that as low as you need it to be. So we have to enter that directly. For that we'll give it 0.3. You can see here it just does come off the initial attack and move into the wave a little bit. We'll tempo sync that for now. And play the item. You can see here that on the loudest hit, which is the fourth in the item, on the loudest hit, the attack is actually away from the wave. That's not really what we want. We want that attack portion right at the beginning on the loudest sample, and then a little bit into the wave on the most quiet sample. That's a more natural way it would actually happen in real life, as a stick would hit a drum. So we're going to change that by moving the phase a little bit. Slow it down a bit. The reason it's jerking or hesitating there is because the item is actually looping back. If we draw that out a little bit, a little bit more smooth for a longer time. For now, that's good. This will become more important on faster events, say 16th notes or 32 notes. This slow movement here will have more of an impact. Next thing we want to work with is the decay envelope. So again, we'll go to the list and we'll find our decay. We'll enable that. Again, move that strength down. You can see it's cutting off a little bit too much. This again gets a little tricky with a mouse, getting those fine details. But in this case, it's not the strength that we have to enter the fine details. It's actually the position of the resting state. And by resting state, I mean where the actual resting state of the decay is. You can see here, as I raise this, so does the decay. The number here, as well as the visual envelope. So we don't want it in too tight. We want it to give some release, and this gets kind of difficult to do with a mouse. I wish I could enter the actual values the way we do down here. That would be nice, or either allow pushing shift for finer movement, but it doesn't. So this is what we'll work with right now. We'll input the same 0.3 and just give a little movement to that decay. Okay, so now we've basically accomplished what we're after as far as giving that sample the dynamics that we want. We've set the minimum volume here to give us velocity, adjusted the velocity in the item. We've set up the modulation link for the attack section of the wave here. The LFO is tempo synced. The decay section is not. That'll allow it to give some randomness to it. To give it more of a natural feel. So now that we're happy with those values, we'll close those out. And there's one other tidbit you saw in the original track when the video started, that I had added an EQ here. I'm just going to pull that EQ over into our new track. And enable it. Has the same modulation as I had set up in the original. And all this is really doing is, again, moving that 800 hertz up and down. As you would hit a drum harder, the higher frequencies, in this case I chose 800, would be more prevalent, and it's set up to be at the top when it's on that hardest hit. And that's not done by velocity, it's as much as timing. It's just actually at the top of the range during the last beat in the measure. Okay. Now to add a couple of more notes in here just to see how this would feel on a again, that's not that's not a real drum on a real snare drum, but it has given a lot more life to the static sample. I hope this has been of some help in explaining it all. Thanks for watching, and I will be doing some more videos in the future, mainly focusing on workflow and how to make beats in Reaper, the way folks are doing with FL Studio and Ableton. Reaper is fully capable of doing those things. It's just a matter of setting up the workflow. So hopefully I'll be able to convey that as well in the future. So if you like this and this is making any sense to you, like the video, of course, and subscribe. And as I get doing more of these, of course, you'll get your little notifications. Again, I hope this has helped. We'll see you guys soon.